Welcome to Generation Digital Workforce, the podcast that's here to explore the role of robotic process automation and other digital technologies. Whether you're just getting started or you're looking for advanced strategies and tactics, if you're curious about where human and digital workers are coming together to transform the future of work, then this podcast is for you. All right, let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Generation Digital Workforce. This is Zena. I'm coming at you from Austin, Texas. I'd like to welcome to the program today, Cam Starr. Welcome, Cam.
Thanks, Zena. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Cam, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, I'd love to. Probably start out by saying that creating products that customers love is my passion. It's what gets me up in the morning. For my academic life, I studied architecture, which is probably one of the oldest technologies for human consumption. But then I went on to study a PhD in computer science and psychology, where I was focusing on user experience and AI to increase team productivity. In the last 20 years, I've led a whole number of teams on products that focus on SaaS and PaaS and API platforms, games and simulations, apps and tools, and lots of other things. And I've developed products in fintech, in health, in edtech and consumers, and for corporations. Some of the biggest names I've probably developed products for are the Bank of England, London Stock Exchange, European Central Bank, National Health Service, Samsung, and quite a few others. In Blue Prism, I am a product manager working in emerging technologies. I work with our AI labs to help bring the next generation of advances in artificial intelligence into the RPA space.
With that amazing background that you just shared with us, I cannot imagine that intelligent automation is that exciting. Is it? Why did you join this industry now?
My journey began quite a while ago. So I built my first RPA-like solution, not quite an RPA, but it was a solution nonetheless in 1986. I was only a young teen and computing was not where it is today. But the solution was to automate engineering calculations. And it's the first piece of software I sold. Since then, I've been building lots of solutions using really the cutting edge technologies. What drives me is the cutting edge technologies. But it wasn't really until 2018 where I read a book by Yuval Harari called Homo Deus, in which he talks about really the brief history of humankind and how we are going to be living the next century. It was a real moment of epiphany for me. Harari talks about the abilities that humans acquire through their use of technology that helps them evolve. And not only are they the dominant species in the world, but how that will then transfer the nature of humanity. He talks about lots of things like humanism and individualism and mortality, but the book closed with an open question, which is what will happen to society, politics, and the daily life when the non-conscious but highly intelligent algorithms know us better than we know ourselves. And for me, that was, a bit of a wake-up call, which, if I was to paraphrase the overall thinking, for me was you are either building the future of work or you will be out of work. And then I looked for who in the world was really on the right track for this. And just so lucky, because to me, and I'm so excited still to be in Blue Prism and what we do, I found Blue Prism an amazing company that is building the future of work. And to be in this position is a real gift, because it completely fits in with my view of what I should be doing and what I can do in order to bring about the future of work.
I feel the same. So welcome to the party, Cam. It's a fun place to be.
Certainly is.
Cam, recently you published a very interesting blog on the Blue Prism blog called the Cyborg Enterprise. Can you describe the Cyborg Enterprise for our listeners?
Absolutely. So looking ahead, as part of emerging technologies and looking ahead, well, let's just take apart the word cyborg to begin with. Cyborg is referring to a cybernetic organism. And generally, a cyborg is an individual or an entity whose physical abilities are extended beyond the normal human limitations by some kind of a computational or mechanical means built into their body. My own experience of this was growing up thinking that cyborgs are, just science fiction. Computers inside people's heads is just something that is not going to happen. But actually, within a few years, my own daughter, who was born profoundly deaf, had a cochlear implant, bilateral cochlear implants, and now she's part human, part machine. She has circuitry directly attached to her brain, and they process the sound and feed it to her auditory nerve. And if you ever see an X-ray of her, you'll see there are wires connected to her brain. And, for all intents and purposes, she's a cyborg. Now, taking it to the next level and looking at the cyborg enterprise, I wanted to look at what the world 2025 would look like, where some of the most successful enterprises have seamlessly augmented human workers with digital workers, where robots are even less distinguishable from their human counterpart in being able to make judgment, to learn from their mistakes, and to create value for the business. And for me, this is the age of the cyborg enterprise. So here we are, it's 2025. What does the cyborg enterprise look like? Well, there are many aspects to it, but one of the initial themes is this auto-discovery of processes is now good enough, it's robust, it's useful. All successful enterprises can use them. If you're a smaller organization, you may use it in the cloud with tiny software agents that run on the laptops. But why are people doing this? So it's primarily driven through the desire to have real people analytics, whereas previously we had enterprise IT, you giving us dashboards of how many servers are being used or how many robots are being used. The cyborg enterprise workforce has a dashboard that shows the real-time utilization of humans combined with their digital counterparts as they're going through their processes, they're dealing with cases and dealing with tasks. This is the bringing together of the human and the machine at an enterprise level. If you like, it's an enterprise dashboard that effectively quantifies the output of the organization in real time, making, very little distinction between the and the machine, because that's being orchestrated for the purpose of the business. So it gives you some real advantages. Every business intervention that you make, every change that you make to the business process, anything that you newly implement, well, you can now track that. You can measure it immediately. We are completely used to web analytics and, seeing how people use the web. But really the next stage of this is people analytics and how people are operating. And this heartbeat of the business, this central kind of processor that allows you to measure the productivity and the competitiveness of the business and see the results of the actions that you're taking. There are other aspects to the cyborg enterprise, this idea of attended automation and human in the loop. They will become very much a part of daily life. We've seen Amazon Alexa and the Google Assist now taking steps from the home assistant. So many homes who have Alexa will be very much used to asking Alexa to change things or check things. And we've already seen a lot of movement in the last couple of years in that space and bringing that into the business. So the human workforce being able to converse with digital workers through voice, to instruct them, to handle exceptions. And why would they do that? Well, it's more convenient. It's faster. And yet, if we take that further in some of the research, we know that we can use webcams to watch users' eyes. We can track their hands. We can combine this with what's happening on the screen with the audio to construct models of the intent and the operation. Lots of things feed into this. We have a whole domain called neuromorphic hardware. And what neuromorphic is it's the mimicking of the neurons in the brain, but built into hardware. So then you have special chips, and NVIDIA is leading with this, and there are others that can do similar kind of things to what we do in our brain, but they can do it on hardware, which means we don't now need to rely on very powerful machines that are running software simulations, but we have hardware to do this. Some of this technology is probably in your hand or in other, listeners' hands who've got some of the latest phones, where you may take a photo and it'll enhance the photo from a dark light into a much better photo. They are using some of these chips already to accelerate the use of AI. So this process automation development right now is quite waterfall, I would say. We are seeing still by many a very separate, the separateness of robots and people. I think there are definitely a few early adopters who are seeing how people work better with robots and starting to build that workflow where robots and people can work side by side. And this water flow method of, you design a robot and it kind of runs separately is actually becoming something that the robot is there to assist you, to help you in delivering the solution that you want, that is there on demand, and can basically make your job quicker and faster. But as we look at 2025, some of the developments in this space that we should be aware of is that we're now at a point where we can derive an entire software simply from watching the screen. Earlier this year, NVIDIA showed a version of Pac-Man, which was generated just by the computer watching replays of Pac-Man. The computer managed to recreate the entirety of the game all by itself without being programmed. And I think seeing those, you can see that the routes and decisions that are made across all of the cases in a business could potentially be automatically analyzed, and the resolution, so that you will derive the underlying processes and what needs to be done simply by watching the actions of the workforce today, and then help them to make it better. Some of the other technologies that are coming along are robots that are capable of self-diagnosing blockages, that have the ability to orchestrate the activity, to have higher response times, to be able to achieve better elastic use of computing resources. And I think this is where we arrive at the cyborg enterprise. It's a combination of the human with the digital workforce, with all the myriad of all the wide-ranging sensors, whether it's Internet of Things, screens, webcams, microphones, databases, network traffics. They are being orchestrated much more effectively, and potentially processes being automatically designed in order to speed up the delivery of the service to the customer.
Well, all I can say is mind blown successfully. I love the vision. Super cool. It's like knowledge worker of the 1950s, digital workers of the early 2000s, and the cyborg worker of 2025. And we're not that far away. Tell me, what does success look like in this new enterprise? How are we measuring business performance with this, complete paradigm, this complete shift from, human worker alone today to this cyborg worker of the future?
Absolutely. So probably is worth bearing in mind that I don't believe that humans have fundamentally shifted in very much in the way that, we yearn for love. We like things that are pleasant, and we don't like things that are unpleasant, etc. in the last 100,000 years. Similarly, I don't think some of the core values of a good business proposition will change. I think some of those values include things like productivity, profitability, sustainability. Those core values are not going to necessarily fundamentally change. However, when it comes to measuring, we'll be looking at how well the enterprise is performing, not just based on the people, but the equation, which is people plus, is people plus machines. So how well are the people working with their digital counterparts? And here, perhaps we have the idea of a digital supervisor or a cyborg supervisor who would be leveraging this multi-level observations of the human and the system activities, and then relating these back to the key enterprise metrics through things like process intelligence, orchestration, and marshalling and handling specific cases and processes. So I think the measure will be how well integrated people are. Where is the slack? Where are the points where people are adding the most value? Where are the points where their digital counterparts can add more value? And really to drive the core business values of making a sustainable business that's profitable and competitive and utilizes, is increasing productivity or has productivity at an optimum level.
I think those enterprises look pretty exciting. I suspect that we'll be there before 2025, we meaning Blue Prism. So that's exciting. In your article, The Cyborg Enterprise, you talk about something called AutoML. And we've talked about ML or machine learning on this program many times before, but that's a unique phrase I've never heard before, AutoML. How's that different? What is that?
So bringing automation to machine learning, AutoML is automatic machine learning. In fact, it's a general principle that basically involves automating some or all of the process of machine learning application. So if we take it from the kind of a high level, in a typical application of machine learning, you would do these typical things. You would find a business problem, you translate that business problem into some data science problem, you'd find the necessary data sets that you would need, you'd then define a set of goals and metrics to measure it in both building the machine learning model and in using it in business. You potentially explore some data sets. You'd then build the model by iteration. You may do some feature engineering, selection. You would perhaps select different algorithms and things like hyperparameters to optimize it. You'd perhaps even make an ensemble, and you would deploy the model. You would evaluate the model, and you would go back to previous steps if there was room for improvement, and then you'd productionize the model. Now, AutoML says, well, there are certain parts or all of these things that could be automated, and some have produced a kind of a different levels of AutoML that you could have. Now, at level 0, there's no automation. The person writes all of the machine learning algorithm from scratch. There's no help at all. Now, barely anyone is really doing that these days. Level 1 is you'd use some high-level algorithm API. So things like TensorFlow or Keras, and there are others that play in this space. So these are high-level algorithms. The next level, which is level 2, is the kind of automated tuning and creating the ensemble. That is picking the best algorithms performing and bringing them together in a way that gives you the best results, and some basic model selection. Again, if we go to the next level, a level 3, there is an automated feature engineering and feature selection. So a lot of the work that happens today that is done by AI engineers is to do this by hand. They need to select the features. They need to look at the data in terms of the augmentation of it and all of those things, but you could automate those. Yet the next level, level 4, is a kind of an automatic domain and problem specific engineering. So where the problem-specific feature is handled automatically. The data augmentation is handled automatically. The data integration is handled automatically. And if the nirvana, which is sort of this level 5, is full AutoML, full machine learning automation. So the ability to come up with the best possible strategy for solving the machine learning problem without any input or guidance. Arguably, there's a lot of work in this already today, and there are certainly big strides being made. And I think this is the direction that the AI industry as a whole is heading towards, being able to automate the process of creating artificial intelligent machine solutions.
So you foresee a time in the near future that digital workers are autonomous?
I think I do. Now, the question is, do I see a time where an algorithm sets up a company all by itself and runs it entirely without people? And I would argue it's not unlikely. I think, depending on which area we're looking at, we're heading in this way. Would it be in 5 years before we see an entirely AI, machine-driven company? Perhaps that's a bit too early, but I certainly see a future where digital workers become fully autonomous in that they use the data, and through deciding what the best solution is, find a solution with minimal or no intervention at all.
Yeah, this could be an excellent strategy for companies to employ as they're looking to grow either geographically or into new industries or potentially launch a new product line.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it could be really cool. So going back to your Cyborg enterprise, when I read the article, one of the areas I got to thinking about was, is this inevitable for all industries, or can some be spared? So I think about when I go on holiday and I stay at a very nice hotel, and the amount of pampering and the things that are offered to me, and the enjoyment of my holiday. So do you think some industries will be spared, like a highly service-based industry? Or what does a Cyborg enterprise hotel look like?
Okay, that's a really great question. So a cyborg hotel, let's see how much of it is automated today. So the booking element of it, you look on a website, you see there are some dates that are open, you book that. Probably no human had anything to do with that. It's, a cyborg hotel would have all of that already automated. So you book and you get all the details sent to your email automatically. You have the printout or whatever it is that you need, or it's on an app on your phone. You arrive and there is a check-in. Well, there doesn't have to be a person there, and certainly I've stayed in some hotels where the check-in is a machine. It's automated. So the check-in is also automated. And they know when you checked in, they know when.
That's my favorite hotel. I love that hotel. You get to pick your own room on the app. I won't promote them here since I'm not sure I'm supposed to, but I love that. I don't even have to stop at the front desk.
Absolutely. Now, let's say you're in your room and you're a bit peckish. You want to call for some food. You call the service for room service. Now, a Cyborg enterprise can have a chatbot that is conversant, can talk to you, can take your order, and also ask you other details about perhaps what it is that you'd like. Sometime later, perhaps hopefully not too much later, more than likely, a human's going to bring your food. Now, that may very well be, and it could be a robot, but a human's likely in the next 5 years to bring your food. And that's probably your first contact with any person that you've seen in the hotel. It comes to checkout, it's fully automated. The follow-up for rating, what you thought of it, that is also fully automated. And in the meanwhile, all of those metrics and analytics are fed back to make sure that from the very outset, the site that you came in, the images that we used, right down to the detail of your stay and your feedback are taken in and analyzed, and perhaps even automated in optimizing. So I think the Cyborg hotel is closer than you would imagine. I don't know if the kitchen will be automated. I don't know if the massage system, there will be some massage machine that will come in to do that. I think there'll certainly be room for staff and for folks to facilitate. I mean, after all, it is nice to have people look after you. But I think a lot of the other systems and the transactional elements of it will all be automated, and there will be things that could be optimized.
Absolutely. The services, the fact that they recommend the massage over the deep sea fishing trip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or they recommend the massage to me and the deep sea fishing to my husband. This is so cool. I think we're actually all living in this sort of quasi-cyborg enterprise today and dealing with quasi-cyborg companies, and probably don't even realize it on a daily basis.
I agree.
So any thoughts for the forward future of the human work in this cyborg enterprise. One of the things that's pretty exciting to me, Cam, is I'm in a field, customer experience, that honestly didn't exist 5 or more years ago. And in part, my role, customer experience, now exists because of a shift in software from old school enterprise, where, you sold the bulk of your value on day one, to subscription model softwares where it's customer lifetime value that really, is beneficial to both businesses, you and your customer. So it was this shift in selling models of an industry that really, created my discipline, customer experience. So as the cyborg enterprise comes to be, and we shift to this new way of work, what skills or fields do you see being needed, or what disciplines do you think will arise as a result of it?
That's a really, really interesting question, because some of the work that we'll talk about shortly, it may sound quite alien, because these are not job titles that we see today. But I think that they'll be the job titles of tomorrow. So you may well have a hybrid workforce manager, or a cyborg workforce manager, or a cyborg workforce director, one of those. But they will be managing this combined competencies of people, which is still cognition, judgment, empathy, versatility, with what machines are good at, which is accuracy, endurance, computation speed, to create the most productive work teams possible. So, the cyborg workforce analytics optimizer could be a title to make, this even better. There'll be other things. So you may have a role which is something like a head of business behavior. Now, we've got widespread adoption of sensors, all kinds of biometric technologies. We'll have more of these in the business workforce and in the task force. So it'll be very challenging with all this complex and vast amounts of data that we have, such as the performance data we'd have, the emotional data that we have, the interaction data. So making use of all of this would be the kind of role for a head of business behavior. They'll analyze it, they create strategies that will improve the employee engagement, productivity, their well-being, workforce happiness in that sense. But this is a dual piece of work. So maybe HR in itself won't just be human resources, it'll be cyborg resources. There may very well be parallels in that space. I think in terms of risks, you may very well have, a hybrid workforce or a cyborg risk officer. As AI becomes really every part of the business, it will generate other unknown challenges and risks that need to be mitigated. The biases that it may have, the unexpected results that you may have from errors, these will need to be handled. I think, to go back to your point about a customer experience, something that may come about, and I wonder how closely this kind of relates, is a chief officer, a role such as a chief purpose planner. This purpose being this new commercial battleground that people will be needed to conceive, to shape, to launch their kind of purpose. So again, this is looking at perhaps in the next 5 to 10 years, the role of this person will be to help customers and clients to build, maintain, manage, and smooth out their purpose in the mind of this increasingly crowded market. In terms of the roles that people would play, I think inside a cyborg enterprise, some of the key skills, I don't think they're going to fundamentally change from really good skills to have to be successful. So critically, collaboration, but that also includes collaboration with robots. But collaboration, communication, and creativity, these are key. The ability to problem solve, to apply critical thinking, to be able to engineer solutions. These are all important, will always be important. But I think some of the other things is that perhaps are on the rise are things like empathy and vision. And these are the skills which I think will become even more relevant for the humans in the cyborg enterprise.
Couldn't agree more. couldn't agree more. And this vision is really exciting. And I don't think any company is there yet. I think you'd agree with that. Although we are starting to see a few companies at their founding bring on digital workforces. So, we have a new company, a new customer that Rebel Energy, and they're a new endeavor, and they're bringing on digital workers from the beginning. So they're thinking about how they actually create and form a company with digital workers on day one. So, the vision is going to be real, and 5 years isn't that far away. But tell me some others that you think are on the right path to being there, or if we can't name any customers, what are some of the leading characteristics of those businesses that are on the right path to be there?
Sure. So one of the companies, one of the growing companies that I think is heading fast in this direction to be called the Cyborg enterprise, I would argue is probably Amazon. Right now, they have something like 200,000 mobile robots that work inside their warehouses, alongside hundreds of thousands of human workers. And in some ways, you could argue that they are a cyborg enterprise from very much a logistics point of view. They have the systems in place that unify the two workforces, the human and the machines. And I think they are, and the growth shows. Their profitability and the growth shows in the marketplace that they are definitely heading in that direction. I think that in terms of characteristics, it is organizations that recognize the importance of digital workers, the value that they can bring, but increasingly organizations that are looking to leverage digital workers as an integral part of the service delivery. So where it's the human worker working in tandem with their digital workforce. So rather than just automating tasks that are then completely separately, the marrying together of the workforce with digital counterparts that can be quickly constructed and used. And I believe that we have some new products in that space too that actually answer to this call of incorporating people into the equation and incorporating the robots into the bigger equation of robot and human co-workers.
So I've really enjoyed our conversation today, Cam, and I would like to close off with a question that might give our audience, something that they can think about doing, at the close of listening to us today. And that is around, if I'm in a position in my company, maybe I'm in a leadership position, or maybe I'm just in a position to really think about how automation can optimize what I'm doing in my own role. What are the first three things I need to be doing to prepare for the Cyborg enterprise?
So the first one is become better informed. I mean, particularly for leadership, but right across the board, become better informed. Recognize that if you don't start today, it's unlikely that your organization is going to be competitive tomorrow. What's worked for the last 100 years will certainly not work for the next 100. And that's in a much, much shorter time frame now. You could imagine that you're a cloth weaver in the 1800s, and you may be saying, sure, the kids have been harping about some hand production machines, hand production methods going to machines, and the playing with some mechanized factory systems. This is just a fad. It is not a fad, but that person would not maybe realize that they would go from, having one spindle to 7 million spindles within the space of just 20 short years. And we're very much in an accelerated version of that. And I would probably recommend Homo Deus by Harari as a good grounding of really, if you're not convinced that this is coming, do read this book, and there are others, to be better informed from a high level, to be inspired by it. The next thing is really to plan your attack. Prioritize the use case discovery. Look deeply at what are the things that you are doing today that are repetitive, things that could be supported, things that could be supported by processes, and they could be easily integrated. Maybe you don't think that they can be easily integrated today, but actually discovering them we may very well find that they are. And lastly, invest in the journey. Investment is the most important thing here. Blue Prism robots can do absolutely amazing things today. And you can't have a cyborg enterprise if you only have people. So you've got to let the robots in and start thinking about not just digital workers, but digital co-workers. So a future where we have a digital co-worker for every employee.
Yeah, and that certainly is a different and a new way of thinking. And, it's exciting as a hiring manager when you begin to look at growing your team and really start to critically think about, well, how do I add a digital worker as the next worker on my team? And, it does make you start to rethink how you create jobs and how you create job descriptions and how you package things up. And that's been really exciting, being able to leverage digital workers, as we're creating a cyborg enterprise. Look at there. How fun is that? Well, Cam, thank you so much for being with us today. And I will have you back on the show as soon as I can. So get another blog post out there for us to get us thinking about the future. And we look forward to having you on the program again.
Thank you so much, Dina. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And to all my listeners out there, thanks for joining this week. And we look forward to having you join us next week on another episode of Generation Digital Workforce. Until then, have a great week.
You've been listening to Generation Digital Workforce. If you want to hear more about RPA, AI, and other cognitive technologies that are shaping the future of work, join us next time as we continue to go deeper on these topics with industry innovators and experts. To make sure you never miss a future episode, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. And if you've liked what you heard today, please leave us a review. It's one of the best ways to help more people find valuable content. For show notes and more info, visit us at blueprism.com/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.